So we hit the road again to check out one of the most divisive spots in America. Trump's favorite word in his entire vocabulary. The wall.
We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall, folks. We're going to build it. I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. That wall will go up so fast. Build that wall. 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 Build that wall.
We met with Deborah, who's lived beside the border her entire life, to see what she thinks about this so-called $26 billion wall.
There's always been a wall there. The parts that have been built haven't made much of a difference. They're still breaking through, or climbing over, or digging under, or whatever. It was a huge amount of money for no reason.
I'm Cindy Garcamo. I'm a reporter with the Los Angeles Times, and I've been covering immigration issues for more than a decade. So Title 42 refers to the health statute that was invoked in March 2020 by the Trump administration. If you are fleeing your country and you go to a U.S. port of entry and you're asking for asylum, you will be turned around. So there is really no legal way to do it right now. You won't go through a process. You won't get a chance to make your case before an asylum officer. It's basically a no-go, and hundreds of thousands of people were expelled in that way. Title 42 basically gave him the cover to eliminate most legal immigration to this country. The Trump administration said, well, we're doing it because we're trying to limit the spread of the coronavirus. The Trump administration also deported people with coronavirus to these countries.
A month and a half ago or so like that, we had a huge wreck out in the country. A single van was hit by a gravel truck. 13 people died. There were 25 people in that van.
People have become very desperate. You have encampments in Mexico right across the border, people dying in the desert. You have people dying in the back of vehicles trying to outrun border patrol. What's happened is that a lot of people have gotten seriously injured or they've died. And we really don't know how many people have died. In Arizona especially, there was a time when they were just finding bodies left and right out in the desert.
I'm Jason DeLeon. I'm professor of anthropology and Chicano and Central American Studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. I'm also the executive director of the Undocumented Migration Project. We have 3,349 open missing persons reports at the Calibri Center for Human Rights, and we also have 1,338 unidentified human remains. People are trying to walk across the Sonora Desert of Arizona or the South Texas backwoods, and you're dealing with extreme temperatures. You can freeze to death in the winter up in the mountains in Arizona. You can die of dehydration in the summer. You can drown during the monsoon season in the late summer. I've spent over a decade hiking in the Sonora Desert, and I'm wearing $200 hiking boots. I'm carrying as much water as I can carry in an enormous pack. I have a GPS unit with me, and still I've very much found myself in trouble many times. Since the mid-90s and the implementation of this policy that uses the desert as a weapon, you've had probably close to 7 million people who have come through the Sonoran Desert on foot.
What do you think the future of America looks like?
I'm hoping we can be generous. I'm hoping we can be empathetic. I'm hoping we start listening to science instead of idiots. Sorry. I'm hoping we go back to teaching history, because that old saying, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, I think is valid.
One of the big ironies of the Border Patrol is the fact that when migrants are crossing the desert, they oftentimes will refer to them as bodies. So they get on the walkie-talkie and they say, we've got 3 bodies moving north, kind of thing. As soon as a migrant dies in the Arizona desert, they cease to be a concern to the United States Border Patrol. The Border Patrol could care less about dead migrants. If you find a body in the Arizona desert, you have to call the sheriff. So that body gets picked up by the sheriff, is then sent to the medical examiner in Tucson. But if you die in Texas or in New Mexico, it's oftentimes unclear what's going to happen to those bodies, especially in a place like Texas, where depending on the county that you die in, that will determine how your body will be cared for. And part of the problem is that there's nobody actively looking for migrant remains, at least not on a governmental level.
I was in Tijuana. There were a lot of rumors going around. And so what women were doing, which I thought was just amazing and interesting, they were preparing their children for separation. They were sitting down their children and saying, if we get separated, this is what's going to happen, and I will eventually find you. There was this one woman who stopped breastfeeding her 6-month-old daughter because she was trying to prepare her for a possible separation. This was a woman from Guatemala who was fleeing her abuser. That just showed the desperation and also the calculation. I think that's as a mother, that is a very smart move to wean your child off your breast, because obviously she's not gonna wanna drink powdered milk in detention. At the end of the day, they're survivors. They're trying to survive. They're trying to make the best of their situation, and they're not just turning back, because turning back means most likely death.